Good evening, everyone. If you've ever been to the New World Symphony, you know that at the beginning of every performance, they ask you to silence your cell phone. So let's stick with that tradition and please silence your cell phone. And I want to thank the New World Symphony and their staff for hosting us this evening. It's a rare thing that you get to work with people who are perfectionists in everything they do. And they are doing everything for us tonight, including recording this meeting. So there will be no edits made subsequent, so you're on warning. I'd like to welcome Steve Gombinski, the president of Lincoln Road Bid, to the podium. Come on in.
Hi, welcome everyone. First of all, I'd like to echo our thanks to the New World Symphony and to Howard. Howard's been, first of all, a great friend and a great member of the executive committee. And I would like to thank every other member of the executive committee. I would like to very much thank all of the board of directors, and especially Tim Schmand and Natalie Mejia for all their very hard work. They've done a phenomenal job. So Natalie and Roseanne Caputer have been our electors, and they have now announced the results of the election. Mindy has 25 votes, Howard has 25 votes, Lyle has 27 votes, David has 27 votes, no one has any other votes. I welcome the four of you again to be for new terms on our board. This is a challenging time for retail, and Lincoln Road has not been immune to these challenges. But challenges provide opportunities, and the past can be a guide to the future. When Lincoln Road was in complete disarray in the 1990s, even though it had been the Fifth Avenue of the South, it was rejuvenated as a result of a public reconstruction project that led to the development of a robust cafe culture. As will be fully explained later on in the program, the bid has led the way to having another daring reimagination of Lincoln Road with the James Corner Master Plan. We are also working to have a dry run permitting process with the help of the city manager that would allow prospective cafe owners to have an idea of what their seating will be before they enter into a lease rather than having to wait to the full construction, which is a great opportunity, along with the new rents on Lincoln Road, to redevelop and reimagine our cafe culture. We also are very appreciative of the city who have worked with the bid, and while they've wanted a financial contribution for the James Corner Master Plan, rather than having that contribution come in ways of having us help pay for the construction, they're allowing us to use that $9 million contribution to help fund arts and culture on Lincoln Road so that the reimagined Lincoln Road before and after the James Corner Plan will have a strong arts component. And that has started with the direction of Lyle Stern with a massive Botero exhibit that will be starting in a week. The opening will be next Thursday. All of you are invited, all your friends are invited. We will start here, and we really encourage all of you to come out. This will be wonderful. I thank all of you. The bid has come a long way in these few years, and it's been a collective effort between us, between the city, and Mike Lorente has just done a wonderful job representing us. We are very grateful. And we really cannot thank Adrian enough, Adrian Morales, for all that he has done. He has been just a wonderful representative for the city and helped change things. What I'd like to do now is to go through the room and have everyone introduce themselves. As Tim said, I am Steve Gombinski. I own 900 Lincoln Road. Another great friend who we are losing, but who we love and appreciate.
Dave Collins, I worked with this bid in 2015. I'm glad to be here again.
David helped us create the bid and is helping us expand the bid.
Bo Martinez, I'm the new Director of Economic Development for the City of Miami Beach, and definitely look forward to working with all of you going forward.
And everything I've heard and all our discussions, he wants to be very proactive, and we're really looking forward to a new stage.
I am Justin Carr. I work with Bo at Economic Development in Miami Beach.
Howard Harry, President of the City.
And a member of our executive committee.
Andrew Rosenberg. I work with Conrad Company.
And another member of our executive committee.
Elba Machado with Vida y Estilo Restaurant Group. We have flooded for 3 inches of snow on the roof. Cindy McElroy, we have multiple folios on Lincoln Road.
And another member of our executive committee.
Stephen Roberts, property management, City of Miami Beach.
Santiago Escalante, City Miami Beach, property management.
Marvel Show, City of Miami Beach, property management.
Our most important contribution to the city.
Yvette Costas, 900 Lincoln Road.
Mike Llorente, Eckler, we are general counsel to the bid and government relations.
Mel Schlesser, Lincoln Center.
And a member of our board of directors.
Jay Goldman, property management, 501 Lincoln, 643 Lincoln, and 700 Lincoln.
Israel Barons, from Dave Barons himself, City of Miami.
Laura Barron, 501 Lincoln Road.
Jonathan Baden from Baden's Restaurants at 1022.
Paul Padula, Baden's Restaurants.
Rosanna Kidder, Del Mar, 600 block. Thelma George, Del Mar.
And a member of our board of directors.
Esteban Acosta, I'm with Colliers, and I'm representing Vornado for 1100 Lincoln Road.
I'm Judy Fernandez, Schwartz Media Strategies, and we are the pure agency of record for Lincoln Road. Bethany Garfari, Schwartz Media. Paula Gomez, also with Schwartz Media.
And as you will see, Schwartz Media has helped change the entire presentation and the face of our company and Lincoln Road, and we are very grateful to them. And this is Tim Schman, our executive director, and just one of the best people that I have for the opportunity.
And at this moment on the agenda, we have Howard Herring talking about art and culture on Lincoln Road. Howard?
Thanks, Tim. Welcome to you all. It's great to have you. Little by little, I feel us pulling together, and I think it's very much a result of what Stephen's done and what the governing bodies of this institution have done, and what Tim has been able to organize, structure, and keep us moving. Natalie as well. Yeah. I want to take 2 minutes to just, first of all, talk to you about New World Symphony. So is anybody here for the very first time? Yeah, there we go, okay. So we are a .edu, we're an educational institution, and our primary job is to prepare 87 fellows, 87 instrumentalists, musicians, to be leaders in the art form of classical music. This is our 32nd year. The dedication to those fellows takes many forms, and what has developed around the curriculum, which involves 70 concerts a year, preparing and performing 70 concerts a year, what has evolved around that curriculum is a laboratory for reimagining the way music is taught, presented, and experienced. Taught, presented, and experienced. The teaching is internal, it's what we do here. The presentation is the concerts that we perform for the larger world. And experience is the most important part, hard to define, but very important for us to keep our eye on. The experience is what happens to the audience. What does the audience understand? And in a world where retailers don't quite figure out what the experience needs to be or could be or what will attract their audiences, their buyers, we're in that same position. The number of people who attend classical music concerts since we began to measure this in the 1980 census has moved from 13% of American adults to 8% of American adults, and that's a 2010 census. So we're all sitting here biting our fingernails to see what happens when the 2020 census comes out. We have the same problem the retailers have. We have the same problem that all of you guys have as we think about how we engage the public. But the good news inside that is that culture and commerce and community can all bind themselves together. And we've watched it happen here on Lincoln Road. Many of you have heard me tell this story. 1979, 701 Lincoln Road turned over for $12 a square foot. And we hit the top of that market a couple of years ago. But what happened to make that come to pass, partly it was weather, partly it was a rediscovery of the weather by the northeast corner of the United States. Part of it was the fact that deco became valuable. Part of it was that photographers began to see that there were cheap hotel rooms and beautiful light. And part of it was the fact that the Miami City Ballet and the New World Symphony and the Art Center South Florida and the Regal Cinema took up residence on Lincoln Road between 1985 and 1992. All of that rolls together. Tax incremental fund was an enormous help, and we have what we have now. What's about to happen is the reemergence of the rejuvenation of Lincoln Road thanks to the James Corner Master Plan. There are 3 pop-up cultural venues, and they will be filled with art in its various forms, and we'll find ourselves in a place where people will get up on a Saturday morning and say, I wonder what's going on Lincoln Road. The early indicator, we have 2,000 people per wall cast, 2,000 people in the park. If you haven't been to the park on a wall cast night, you can come this Saturday. The New World Symphony is actually going to play Dvorak's New World Symphony, if that's any attraction for you. We'll have 2,000 people in the park. 40% of the park audience goes to Lincoln Road as part of their Saturday night experience. That number can climb. I'm convinced that number can climb. And part of the way we're making it climb is at the end of a wall cast, we tell people to go to Lincoln Road, and some of our guys go down and play at the corner of Drexel and Lincoln Road. That is one tiny little indicator of programming that's going to rejuvenate this road. Take us from where we are now, 10 million people a year, up to some other great big number that's going to be helpful to us all. So yes, I want our fellows to understand what it means to build community. I want them to understand what it means to work in conjunction with, in tandem with, in cooperation with the commercial activity. And I want them to play great because they're going to go out in the world and they're going to do this for themselves and for their communities broadly. Last thought about Wallcast. There are now 6 walls in the United States that are copies of this wall. We're model builders, we're a laboratory, this is what we do. The Kennedy Center opened their wall about a month ago. They are one of the 6. They're the most prominent of the 6. So that means that we're going to build the brand of Miami Beach based on culture. We're going to get a 3rd dimension to sun and sand and a lot of good things to do that are entertaining. We're going to go beyond that into a cultural place. The next big moment where we're going to really understand this is when we get the Boteros up and we watch people come to the Boteros. All of this costs money, and we have to understand that. We have to understand that the programming will cost money to accomplish. This organization is a $17 million a year operating budget. We're a nonprofit. We raise about $9.5 million a year, and we make our contribution to the community based on what I've described already. But all of us are going to get to do that in one form or another, and it will be to our general benefit and to each one of us as individuals. So I invite you to be part of the conversation. No good deed goes unpunished. They have made me the head of the cultural committee of the Lincoln Road bid, right? So you may hear from me, but I am also ready to hear from you. And as we renovate Lincoln Road, as the Boteros shows us the next step as far as art is concerned, and the Wallcast shows the next step in terms of performing arts, let's keep ourselves together and thinking hard and creating the next Lincoln Road experience, okay?
Next on the agenda is me doing the annual report, but I'd like to go ahead, Steve.
I may be saying what you're about to say, but I would like to thank Kevin for his extraordinary work in helping prepare the annual report, helping prepare our advertising, all of the Botero advertising that now bolsters and Lincoln Road and self-transform the street. He is really for us to the level of
That's not what I was going to say, but that's great. I agree. So I wanted to take a moment of personal privilege and thank Commissioner Alaman for her support over the years with everything we've been trying to do on Lincoln Road. I have found her to be one of the most, okay, so I come from across the bay. And if you take a look at the way the government's operating across the bay, and you take a look at the way the government's operating on this side of the bay, it's night and day. When I would go to meetings at the other side of the bay, they would be contentious and tedious and nothing would get done. When I went to meetings on this side of the bay, they were discussions and colloquials about, like, what are we going to do? What's best for the community? And I know that your contribution to that is what's moved this city forward. So my personal privilege is to thank you personally for everything that you've done. And if you'd like to address the Lincoln Road family, come on up.
Well, that is very sweet. And listen, it's been my privilege. I look around the room and see so many faces that we've met and we've talked about how we can advance Miami Beach, whether it's for residents, businesses, for arts and culture, you know, a great exchange of ideas. It's truly, truly been my honor and privilege to get to work with each of you and support the community. I feel blessed. I'm excited for my next chapter, but certainly it's bittersweet because we have the best city in the nation, and Lincoln Road is a special, special part of that, a historic and totally unique, wonderful part of that. So if in any way I helped advance what all of you great people have been working on, then I'm pleased. I'm pleased to be helped. Thank you.
They've given me a clicker, and this is our annual report. And can everybody hear me if I walk away from the microphone? Yes. Is everybody okay? So great, because I want to be able to see your reaction. I want to be able to run just in case. So this is the Lincoln Road Business Improvement Annual Report for 2019. And the mission of the Lincoln Road bid is stabilizing and improving Lincoln Road with promotion, management, and marketing. That's our mission. That's what we set about to do. And that's our Walk for Health. Every Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. you can join Faye. She's in the lower left-hand corner, and Walk for Health on Lincoln Road. And that's part of our ongoing health and wellness programming on Lincoln Road. So Lincoln Road was created in 1912 by Carl Fisher, reimagined by Morris Lapidus in the 60s. And it's got 250 stores and restaurants and 9 blocks of gardens and promenades. And just this year, Lyle recognized we had gardens. Lyle Stern took a walk with Greer from the Fairchild Tropical Gardens, and he said, look at this amazing garden. And Lyle has opened all our eyes to this amazing garden in which we get to play.
And also what Steve Patel about bringing our kids on 2 of the blocks, and it's helped, you know, helped open our eyes to the possibility of working with Fairchild and really engage Lincoln Road as a botanical area.
So, and then here is the culture that we have on Lincoln Road. You know, Lincoln Road has so many faces. It's the architectural face, it's the retail space, it's the restaurant space, it's also the cultural space, and it's the botanical space. And it's just one of the things that keeps giving and giving and giving. And those are our partners in culture on Lincoln Road. So the bid was created in 2015, representing and advocating for business owners, diverse and vibrant Lincoln Road, civic hub for the community, transformative projects, marketing, collecting and analyzing available data. And this gets done by the board of directors that meet quarterly and the executive committee that meets monthly, except on the months when the board meets. And they provide the direction to staff to make sure this thing happens. And I have worked for boards of directors for the past, I don't even know how many years, 35, 40 years, and I have not worked for a board of directors that's been as engaged as this board of directors. Steve and I talk on a daily basis. Lyle and I talk almost hourly. and everybody here, Thelma will call me if she has an idea, if she thinks I missed out on something. You know, I've got Mel who's looking out for me and everybody else on Lincoln Road. It just goes on and on and on. So I want to thank the board publicly for what they do. So 84% of Miami Beach residents visit Lincoln Road monthly. And I discovered that because I was at a commission meeting where you said, oh, Lincoln Road is getting great marks in the resident survey. And I said, what resident survey? And then I found the resident survey. And 84% of Miami Beach residents visit monthly. That's a crazy number. This is the pedestrian count. And from, you know, July to July, 18 to 19, 13 million. And of course, the busiest day was Halloween. Imagine that. And this is not Halloween. This is a Thursday night run on Lincoln Road, where it starts at Nike and they run all over Helen Road, but they end back up on Lincoln Road. And this is a picture that just impresses everybody that sees it. So we changed media agencies in 1819, and we've gone through a bunch of campaigns, and this is the latest, and it's the Botero campaign. And you see that trolley scooting around the beach. And this is our TripAdvisor review performance. And you can see that we're head and shoulders above in the review count. And we're also doing very well in the ratings. So public events in 2018, 2019, we did 60 Live on Lincoln concerts. We did 10 New World Symphony events, 7 children's events, and 8 tango milongas. And we do the milongas every fourth Wednesday of the month in season. And they're a chance to learn tango and watch tango. A favorite of last year was on 60 Minutes on a Sunday night, they had a thing on the Beatles. And the Beatles, it was a discussion of the 50th anniversary of their performance on top of the Abbey Road Studios. And after 60 Minutes ended, my phone rang. And it was Lyle Stern saying, "Hey, Tim, do you think we could do something with this?" And I thought it was brilliant. We have the resources to just be this kind of crazy. We have the New World Symphony that has the best players on the planet. We have architectural edifices like the 1111 Garage, which is waiting to be used. And we have an institution that's just wacky enough to try this stuff. And it worked. We got worldwide media coverage, and everybody involved, everybody to a person had fun. So,
Oh, wait, yeah, I made the call, but it was you executed the Howard's partner in 2 weeks.
no, it was such a good idea. When a good idea, you don't turn your back on it. You put your arm around it and say, "Come on, let's go get a drink." So we do holiday celebrations, 30-foot tree. Big hit last year was Santa's Cabana. We're reinstalling it this year. We're working with the folks at Selling and Nora. We're going to do some big stuff around that. And on the 29th, Black Friday, starting at 4 and running until about 7:30, we're going to have our tree lighting ceremony. If you show up at 4, you can make your own holiday ornament. The caroling will start around 6:30. The tree will be lit at 7, and then you're on your own. So these are some of the shows that we did last year. You may not remember Cars, Bars, and Cigars because there was a monsoon that year. And I think 7 people died in the rain, but we did the show anyways. The people who brought the cars had fun. We continue with Make Music. We had Pioneer Winter up here. We had the Independence Day pop-up concert, which was the day before Independence Day, and they did the Game of Thrones as a pop-up show. It was magnificent. We also have the South Beach Jazz Festival coming up. That's the first weekend in January. If you don't have your tickets yet, get them now. They're going to go fast. Gay Pride Light the Night, we do that it'll be the last day of, or first day of April this year. And we're working on some other things to embellish that. And we also sponsor the Colony Theater. And the Colony Theater is just doing great work on Lincoln Road. I think of them as like the anchor on the west side, the cultural anchor on the west side, as I think of the New World Symphony as the cultural anchor on the east side. If you're not working out, you can on Lincoln Road. If you feel like you're out of shape and you want to start getting back in, we do free yoga on Sundays and Wednesdays. We do a walking club on Tuesdays. We do Zumba, sponsored by Back to Health, on Tuesdays. We do a mat Pilates class on Saturday. I did it just this past week. I'm still sore. And I do a lot of yoga, but I'm sore from that. And we have a yappy hour for our four-legged friends and their human companions. So our partner for the City of Miami Beach, the Convention Center, and we, as an institution, supported the passing of the Go Bonds and the Convention Center Hotel. And both of those passings are going to change the nature of Miami Beach into the future. And it's going to be one of those things where people in the future are going to look back at this generation and say thank you for that. And then, of course, we're pushing on through the James Burke Field Operations Project. So, 1,000 orchids have been installed on Lincoln Road by Fairchild Tropical Gardens. Thank you to Karen Oak and Stephen Patel. And as a result of we discovered that Lincoln Road
is home to a once endangered butterfly that we have more of those butterflies. If they were endangered, they're not anymore. Butterflies, and it's just amazing that it's just like the, I don't know what we call it, when two forces come together. So Fairchild comes down to Lincoln Road, Lyle suddenly gets schooled on what a great botanical installation we have, and then we discover personally about these butterflies, and we have these orchids that bloom all year long. They put them up in a way that when one are not blooming, others are blooming, and it's supposed to go on and on and on. So, very exciting. Of course, we have our ambassadors. They greeted you at the door today, 264 hours of service and 66,000 contacts. And now, I'd like to have Schwartz come up and talk about the stuff that they've been doing. When I got to Lincoln Road, I knew that the only PR firm I wanted to have was Schwartz Media. I knew this, and it just took a while to get there. But they have been great, so if somebody wants to...
Yes, yes. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Paula. I'm with Schwartz Media Strategies, along with my colleagues, Jessica and Wayne here. We were retained by the Lincoln Road bid December 2018. We rolled out the campaign. We really started kicking off in January 2019. Our specialty is more issues management and destination PR, and so that's what we were brought in here to do. What our main objective was to do is reshape the narrative, how people were talking about Lincoln Road, bringing it from just a pedestrian mall to the Lincoln Road district, including all of the wonderful amenities that we have, the symphony, the Fillmore, the shopping, the dining, we're all of it. We're not just a pedestrian mall. So we were brought in to reshape the narrative, and also to our number one priority was, of course, to push forward the master plan. So I'm not going to bore you with a ton of clips. And yeah, okay. So I'm not going to bore you with a ton of news clips, but we just did a quick by the numbers. In just the year to date, we've generated 108 press impressions. So that's news generation throughout digital, print, TV. We've also supported 9 of the Lincoln Road bid events. And we posted 19 media journalists on the road. And by posting, I mean we walked them up and down the road, showing them everything that there is, from the landscaping that Lyle discovered to all the wonderful cultural opportunities we have, the restaurants, the stores. With Tim, Tim personally walked every single one of them down the road with us. So in addition, we generated 8 broadcast coverage stories. We really started our campaign with just focusing on a few top-line initiatives, and of course the revitalization of Lincoln Road on the James Corner plant was the #1 initiative. One of those journalists that we walked up and down the road was Forbes reporter Michael Alpiner. He did a huge story on the turn of Lincoln Road from what it was when Carl Fisher first founded it to today. The second story, and we've gotten many more on the revitalization. These are just a few of the top ones because I don't think we want to sit here through 108 slides. But Miami Herald was another really big one. It's a $67 million makeover. We secured that to push forward the expansion of the bid, and it actually mentions the property owner's commitment of investing another $15 million in arts and culture. Another big priority for us was positioning retailers on Lincoln Road. People like to talk about news that drives headlines, which is people leaving the road, but we really focus on the people that are coming back to the road, not just the retailers that are opening new, but the ones that are returning. And so these are 2 of the top retail outlets, Shopping Center Business and CoStar. And this is an opportunity for us to really support the brokerage community and give them opportunities to sell the road. We also focus lifestyle. And of course, arts and culture is such an important initiative for Lincoln Road bid. And these are 2 of the top lifestyle publications locally. Miami Modern Luxury did a full-page feature on the Botero exhibit. And Evansville Magazine did a roundup of the top exhibits that you needed to see during Art Basel. And our Botero exhibit was also included as one of the top events you needed to attend. And event support as well. We supported, as I mentioned previously, 8 or 9 of the top events that have been hosted by the bid. Of course, it's to support Kevin and his efforts at marketing. But we really do also do some press on the events, and so we've gotten some coverage on Halloween, on the symphony event. And then last but not least was hotels and the future of Lincoln Road. Hotels wasn't necessarily something that we had foreseen when we first started our campaign in January, but it became legislation and something that was a very important, what we see as very important for the future of Lincoln Road, because not only does it transform something that has never been offered on the road before, but it also brings additional foot traffic to the retailers. And so we felt as an agency that this was something really important to push, and so we proactively got this subject line, and we ran with it, and we secured the stories in the Miami Herald and the South Florida Business Journal, in addition to many others, but again, these are just a few of the top publications that we secured. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for all your efforts. So, 2019, 2020. So the James Corner plan was approved by the Board of Directors in July 3rd, 2019, and we took that to the City Commission, and they have sort of agreed to pursue this. At that same time, they voted to expand the term of bid for an additional 5 years and increase the size of the bid to run from essentially the ocean to west. And then increase assessments to the current bid owners by 25% and expand the bid from 75 to 102 property folios, which would generate $1.9 million annually per program. And you know, one of the things we're looking into is engaging the services of a consultant to assist in identifying means and methods for the expanded bid to engage the services of planning, cultural facility, cultural activations, all of those things that are necessary for the bid to take the next step. And recently, Lyle has reached out to us again with another idea. And that photo to your left is from Burning Man. And I'm just going to say thank you, Lyle, because it's given us something to chew on. So we're going to continue the efforts of the City of Miami Beach to implement the James Corner Field Operations Plan and continue the care and development of Lincoln Road Flyer Grant. We're going to continue with wellness programs. We're going to continue assisting the tenants and owners with activation. We're going to continue to work with the city on Halloween and December holidays. We're going to continue to do free, inclusive event celebrations for Miami Beach residents and visitors. If you're not doing anything tomorrow evening, Nautilus Middle High, 1111 block, they'll be performing from 5:30 till 8. Join us out there, it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll continue to work on Light the Night campaign and try and figure out a way to enhance that. And we're going to continue our sponsorship of South Beach Jazz Fest and College. And of course, on Monday, about 5 o'clock, we're going to start loading in the Botero sculptures. And the loading should take 2 days, and then the opening will be November 21. If you haven't RSVP'd yet, please do. I expect to see you all there. Thank you very much. And if there's questions, suggestions, ideas,
Just one other item I'd like to and also thank Gabriel in the city. And these are simple things. I mean, what we do, and this is also Mike's help, we do advocacy for others, and we try to bring common sense. Tim had connections with Big Bus. Big Bus used to drop people off in front of the New World Center. It doesn't create, they don't see Lincoln Road, they don't envision Lincoln Road, there's no reason to get off there. What they wanted, what we suggested was they drop people right on Lincoln Road. It took months to get there. We thank Adrian. The transportation department came in and said, no, we've had complaints about the buses going in the potential area to go. This is completely unfeasible. Thanks to Adrian's help, Jimmy Morales, himself, the city manager, we got a trial run. The trial run is now in its 4th month or so, and there's been exactly 0 complaints. So this is the kind of steps we're taking, the initiative from Tim, and one of the most important things he says, we're open to every and any suggestion. We're open for help. This is an inclusive process. It's a community process. Even now, any comments, suggestions, please make it. But most importantly, Tim has helped transform the bid. You can see by this evening's programming what he's done. I just can't thank him enough for his brilliant work.
you guys know that the board of directors here, and you know
Nobody else has used it, so I feel kind of silly. Mike Durante, my firm, serves as general counsel to the bid, and we also attend every commission meeting and most committee meetings at the city as well, making sure that we're there to advance the interests of the bid, which is not just the interest of this group of property owners, but the way that we see it, the way that I see it, is a tremendous city asset. It's a tremendous public asset. So we're there advancing the interests of the bid. I've been asked to say a few words on the proposed bid expansion. So that's where I'll focus my comment, my very brief comments. And I'd like to begin by just taking a quick step backwards, just to make sure that we all have the appropriate context on kind of how we got here. A couple of years ago, we had about $30 million allocated to the master plan project, right, the overhaul of Lincoln Road. And that $30 million allocation came from a partnership between the city and the county. Last year, we were successful in approaching the city and the county and getting them to open up their interlocal agreement and increase the funding level from 30 million to 50 million. So that was last year's sort of big victory, and we of course were and remain grateful to our partners at the county and at the city. And you know, Commissioner Alman stepped out. I'm not sure if she'll be back, but I will also take a point of personal privilege. Just to mention that we do owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to John. You know, and I was thinking as I was sitting there, we spend a lot of time around elected officials, politicians, and usually they come to stuff like this around election time, kind of want to expand their voter base and whatnot. John has 11 days left in office, okay? And she chose not to run for re-election, to spend more time with her family and whatnot. I think that says a lot that she's here, right? And a lot about the kind of commissioner that she's been over the last 4 years. Her heart is in it. She has done a tremendous job, not just for this group, but for the city. And so we owe her a debt of gratitude. And I also wanted to recognize Diana Fontani from the Office of Commissioner Michael Lagoa, who was here earlier. But so back to the master plan project. Last year, the city and the county, with our sort of support and suggestion, expanded the funding level from $30 to $50 million. When the preliminary estimates came in at around $65 million, the city was trying to figure out what to do, and they were looking at a couple of different options. One option was just to chop, not just value engineer, but basically just cut up certain parts of the master plan project, set them aside, and do a $50 million project. Another possibility that was being discussed was for the city to put in a small additional amount toward capital and come to the bid to make up the difference. The third option, which was actually proposed by members of your board of directors, was to say, why doesn't the city make up the balance of the capital project, the capital fund? And the bid, instead of raising additional dollars for capital, why don't we put additional money into arts, programming, activation? We took that to the city. The city was very open. And so in July of this year, they endorsed in concept this idea where the city will make up the balance of the capital budget, and we, the bid, will hold an election early next year to expand the boundaries of the bid to include other areas, namely the 200 and 300 blocks from Washington to Collins. Those areas will be improved as well. So expand the boundaries of the bid, add 5 years to the life of the bid, and increase the assessment by 25%. And the net impact of that is millions and millions of dollars, of additional dollars, that can be used not toward capital, but to actually create a more incredible sense of experience on Lincoln Road. And so that's events, programming, activation. So again, the city in July of this year endorsed that in concept. They have directed the contractor for the National Plan project to go out and get bids, real bids for the project. They will be back probably around April of next year with a guaranteed maximum price, a firm price for the project. At that point, we hope and expect that the project will move forward and begin construction at some point next year. On a parallel path, we expect that early next year, probably in January or February, there will be an election to expand the boundaries of the bid and make the adjustments that I mentioned a few minutes back. And so, God willing, by April or May of next year, we should have the approved, newly configured bid, and we should have an approved guaranteed maximum price with real dates for commencement of construction. So it's been many, many years of work and partnership, but we are very, very, very close. And again, I think everybody who stepped up here has recognized Adrian, and I wanted to do the same because the bid has worked tirelessly to make this happen, but Adrian has worked even more tirelessly to make that happen. And without I think this is something that, when all is said and done and this project is finished, we can all look back with a sense of pride and sort of ownership, even those of us like Adrian and I who don't actually own anything here, with a sense of ownership, because it really has been an incredible collaborative process. And so we look forward to the next few months, which will be very meaningful in terms of this project. In any event, I'll cut my comments short. If anybody has any questions or whatever, pull me aside. Thank you.
Now we're at the end of the agenda. Is there anything else anybody would like to talk about?
The other thing I look at is need a great showing Thursday. I think Schwartz is working on a great media package and pretty well demonstrated. I think that we really want to make sure we have a strong showing people from Otero and Taylor, and hopefully we'll have a great meeting along with it.
Time to open.
I think it's
Starts at 7.
And we're going to start here at 7.
Start here at 7.
It's 7 o'clock.
And then about 8 o'clock, we're going to be out in the 400 block, and there'll be an unveiling of the store.
I'd like to recommend everybody to bring, we need to get RSVPs because I'm not part of those, we have to do some head counting, but it's important to get, cross-cultural sections of this community to come, not just Lincoln Road tenants and property owners. Get out and do that.
Michael?
So you were just going to thank everybody for all of their support and all of that, so I won't do that. But I was wondering, obviously the improvements are a major thing that's going to come up. And I guess what I'm clear on is really the schedule and the timing, block by block, and how it's really going to come down. Because, we had this sort of paralysis by analysis for a while, which sort of chilled the leasing business to some extent because people were concerned about, is it going to happen? And it is not going to happen. Okay, so now we know what's going to happen. So we're still in that zone in a sense until we can really display what is that? Like which block, 1 block at a time, 2 blocks at a time.
So the current conversation, and this is the way it's going to be bid out. It's going to be bid out so that it's done 1 block at a time. And the current conversation has it starting at the western edge and moving east, because the western edge, the Drexel block, or the Lennox block, is the least complicated. And they would do a third of a block at a time, so that no businesses would be closed. So they would do the center part, and then they would do like the north or south side and move things off and onto that. Correct? And Adrian's here, so he can jump in if I say anything wrong. And then when that block is done, they would move to the next block. And they wouldn't do anything anywhere else but on that block. And those blocks should take
6 months.
6 months on the block. And so there's these 2 things that are going to happen. One, there's the expansion of the bid, and then the James Carter plant. And the expansion of the bid should fund the bid at such a level that we will be able to create such compelling programming on the road that people will say, we have to go see it. I don't care about the construction. Did you hear what they're doing now on Lincoln Road? And that's the goal. In conjunction with the construction, to have compelling programming that people can't ignore Lincoln Road. That's the goal.
And I suspect that they're looking at starting at the east and starting at the west at the same time, or is it we just determine that that's too disruptive?
Too disruptive. I think 1 block at a time, because it gives you the right narrative. That Lincoln Road, like you will be able to go from Alton to Washington while construction is going on. and there's only going to be one block that's under construction, but even on that one block, you'll be able to pass through. The verticality of the road won't be interrupted. So if, after the first block is done, when the second block is underway, you can still go all the way from Alton to Washington. That's the plan.
Is it gonna cross over each block? Is it gonna one block and then go to the next side and the other side?
There's some overlap. There will be some overlap. So we're filing, and I think Mike hit it on the head there. There's some, we've been reviewing this, and Mike's mentioned it. So I'm about to celebrate my 5th anniversary with the city, and I got the James Corner probably my first week here. So I've been working on this longer than anyone in our city. But there's going to be an opportunity where there's a public presentation of this schedule. The tenants, the owners, the stakeholders have an obligation to them to let them know what this looks like. We've never had this opportunity. Conceptually, we did it with public meetings, but now as we get into the bidding, as we get into tightening this up and really get the shovel in the ground, we'll have an opportunity to take a look to see what the impact is. And I think James Corner understands that, the contractor and the city, so we will have some type of discussion in a public setting where we can review, and you'll see what that looks like. But we just haven't gotten there.
When the corner plan was developed, we had monthly with the city. And I spoke to Adrian earlier, and we're going to reinstitute these hopefully this time some monthly meetings as we start to talk about construction, so that we have full information to what's happening.
Right, and even during the period of construction and as we continue to develop this project, the owners, the property owners, the tenants, the bid has a seat at the table. The city's been wide open in making sure that we've been involved in every step of the process, so that we're not doing anything that would affect your business, your road, the residents' road, and even the visitor road. That's what we've been trying to do the whole time. That's what we'll continue to do. And I won't speak for the city manager, but him meeting with the bid quarterly is to identify opportunities to be a better city government is a testament to that, support and contribution.
Do we have we looked at having a construction manager that represents the bid to pursue this and be aggressive on the schedule and making sure to having that, because clearly the city's gonna get it, the city has a lot of things on their plates, you have a lot of stuff on your plates. Has the bid considered actually retaining a
We actually did talk about that once, Mike, that we should have somebody on the team, the construction management team, absolutely. Yeah, we talked about, I don't know if it was ever moved on,
We need
but
to
it's certainly open to discussion.
It's all great in theory, right? But we don't really put pressure on that contract and push every single day. It's gonna drag and we don't want to do that. We've seen it happen too often.
So we have a meeting next week. Maybe we can put this on the agenda, and what I would recommend to anyone who will be attending the meeting is any suggestions you can give Tim as to contacts the construction manager you can reach out to. We can certainly price what they would charge and see if we can get them involved, particularly in important early.
Well, you're looking for a consultant.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, how is it planned right now to be done? Who's gonna oversee all of the construction? Is it Burkhart? Huh?
Right, so Burkhart Construction, it's already under contract right now, he's under contract for pre-construction services, and he's been here with us for almost 4 years. So these guys were here, the contractor has been through the design and a cost estimating at every level from the beginning, so they know what this project is.
There's a contractor or?
There's a contractor on board with it, Burkhart Construction.
They're the GC.
Okay, so who's watching the contract?
So this project is the City of Miami Beach Capital Projects, some of their purview, so my colleagues in Capital Projects have a project management team with a senior project manager, a project manager and inspectors and all that. There's a team that's already there, which I'm part of that team. I'm not the lead, but I'm part of it. So that this is no different than other projects that we do in the city, where we have capital projects overseas. So we oversee the contractor, he has a project manager, he has superintendent, so he has a team already there.
I think it's not bad that we hire a consultant, but I also wanted to comment that I've had very candid conversations with the corner saying, is this the right person to hire? And they've done a number of major public projects, and they just speak eloquently about our project.
I think we should just have an advocate.
I agree, but what I'm
Association.
saying is, it's very comforting to know that somebody who's taking the project is equivalent to ours. who's a top-level professional, feels that this is the person that can execute the vision. This is the company that can do it. I think it always helps monitoring that somebody is paying for us. But it's comforting to know that the city's not hiring a second-class company to do it.
No, and Mike, the contractor intends to have their office on Lincoln Road. They will use
I
that
just
office.
like to have, it's like letting the box in the head.
They want that. They specialize in these public projects. They like to have that presence there.
But I just, I know,
But I understand.
I'm excited to get you going on this. I know you've been focused on it, and we're counting on you. Thank you.
But as I said, please make suggestions, anybody, we need to translate this to the practical, so we can get names, people we can contact. Anybody, now, please give us names, and we'll start to.
I have a thought, we can talk about it.
Okay. So where's this will be discussed at our next meeting next week.
Mr. Schwan, I suggest strongly to you folks that when you get to that meeting where you're talking to other people with establishments on Lincoln Road, and you're talking about the schedule, that it would be really smart to have 6 to 10 of you folks fully briefed on the presentation and what needs to be said, because nothing makes a store or a restaurant nervouser than the prospect of, oh yeah, those are pretty good intentions, but can this be done? And I think just to move the conversation towards achievability, you folks would be really valuable for the chat.
Thank you. Anyone else? There is dessert.